Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like a stranger to yourself? Not because you don't know who you are, but because you know exactly and still don't live that way. Every day passes with a silent promise to change, to be more serious, more disciplined. And yet you take another step back, make one more compromise, and slowly lose respect for yourself. You are not weak. You've simply allowed emotions and external conditions to shape your inner life for too long. The Stoics understood that all lasting change begins in the mind. Not in your job, your money, or your relationships, but in how you face yourself each day in the moments no one sees, no one praises, no one controls. When you reclaim mastery of your mind, you reclaim your entire life. And to do that, you must begin with non-negotiable principles. This is where the first rule begins. 1. Stop renewing contracts with your weaker self. Not everyone fails because of a lack of ability. Many fall because of the seemingly harmless compromises they make each day. One tap to silence the alarm, turning your back on your goals. One message to someone you know you shouldn't reach out to. One task skipped just because you're not in the mood. It sounds small, but each time you're extending a contract with the weakest version of yourself, the version that waits for ease, makes excuses, and always does less than you know you're capable of. The danger isn't in exhaustion, but in the quiet habit of accepting it as part of who you are. You begin to justify stagnation with familiar phrases. Just for today. At least I tried. Everyone does it. And then you forget that each time you delay doing the right thing, you betray the future you once wanted. Stoics aren't immune to emotions, they simply refuse to let emotions dictate their actions. They understand that character isn't formed in the light, but in the quiet darkness of choices. No one sees you get out of bed at 5 a.m. No one applauds when you skip an empty conversation to focus on your goals, but you know. And that's the only thing that matters. Because who you become is shaped by small, repeated actions, not by the promises you make in your head. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't wait to be a good man, be one." Every choice you make today casts a vote for who you'll be tomorrow. If you keep negotiating with comfort, comfort will rule you. If you keep giving ground to delay, delay will invade every corner of your life. And if you don't draw the line with weakness, you'll forever live under its control. When the alarm rings, you're not facing a clock. You're facing yourself. When you feel lonely and want to return to a toxic relationship, you're not soothing nostalgia. You're testing your ability to keep promises to yourself. When you're standing between pushing forward or giving up, it's not a small choice, it's the moment that redefines your character. Don't overvalue a single grand gesture and then grow complacent. Learn to respect quiet consistency, the right choices repeated daily, unseen and uncelebrated. That is the true foundation of a strong life. No triumphant victory ever occurs unless you learn to win those silent battles with yourself in the moments where quitting feels easiest. And if you feel like you've grown too familiar with weakness, don't blame yourself. Wake yourself. Because the moment you stop renewing your contract with it, your true strength begins to return. Not through declarations, but through one single act, choosing not to back down anymore. From this moment on, any time you're about to say just this once, pause. It's not just a phrase. It's a signature. And you have the power to refuse the pen. 2. Emotions are not commands. No one lives without being hurt. A clumsy criticism, a cold glance, a message left unread. We've all carried the weight of feeling dismissed, disrespected, or forgotten. But what pulls us into the pit isn't the event, it's how we interpret it. One person hears an insult and lets it pass like wind. Another hears the same words and carries them like a bleeding wound for weeks. It's not the words that hurt, it's the meaning we attach to them. Emotions are natural, but responses are choices, and if you don't learn how to stand in the middle of your inner storm and hold your ground, you'll always let emotions drown out reason and with it, the critical decisions that shape your life. The Stoic doesn't try to remove emotion, they simply refuse to let it command their behavior. You can feel anger and still act calmly. You can feel hurt and still choose to forgive. You can feel fear and still move forward. That's not being fake, that's sovereignty. Epictetus once said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our thoughts about them." If you allow every bump in life to control your mood, then anyone, at any time, can control you with just a word, a glance, a careless act. And that's not destiny. It's a gap in your way of living. The person who can't control their reaction becomes a puppet of their emotions, easy to provoke, easy to manipulate, easy to pull away from what matters. You might be strong, disciplined, intelligent, but if you can't control your first reaction, you'll lose everything you've built in a single moment of impulsiveness. Self-control doesn't begin in major events. It begins in the smallest moments, when you're interrupted mid-sentence, when you're not heard, when you're misunderstood, when someone gives attitude. In those seconds, you can either let emotion take over and react like a child, or you can take one breath, step back, and respond like an adult. Like muscle, self-control is built through repetition. Every time you don't retaliate, every time you choose silence over arguing, every time you sit with your emotion instead of fleeing from it, you're forging deeper strength. And the more you do, the more you prove. You are no longer a victim of fleeting emotions, you are the captain of your ship. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Don't let emotion turn you into a version of yourself you'll later have to apologize for. Don't react hastily, only to regret how you behaved." The Stoic doesn't react instinctively, they respond artfully. You can't stop others from mistreating you, but you can deny them the privilege of polluting your mind. You can't control the world, but you can always control how you live in it. 3. When you don't feel like doing it, that's when you must. Here's a hard truth that sets you free. You'll never feel ready for the most important things in your life. Not ready to start over, to let someone go, to wake up on time, to speak the truth, to choose difficulty over comfort. Because emotion, by nature, avoids pain, delays discomfort, and clings to the path of least resistance. But if you keep waiting to feel like it, your life will remain suspended in a comfort zone with no exit. The Stoic doesn't wait for motivation before acting. They act to stay ahead of the current of emotion. They understand that a tired morning, a bored evening, or a day without drive isn't a reason to stop. It's a signal to continue. Because what you do in the imperfect state is what defines who you really are. If you only act on the easy days, you're living by emotion, but when you keep going even as your mind protests, you're living by values. Seneca once said, "It's not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." How many times have you skipped a workout because you felt tired, avoided an important conversation because of laziness or fear? Let your dreams freeze over because you were waiting for a better mood. Be honest with yourself. Do you truly need more time, or are you just postponing the right thing because it feels uncomfortable? No one needs to feel inspired to take action. They just need to stop being a slave to their emotions one more time. And the truth is, the moments you feel least like doing anything are often when you need action the most. Because that's when you're standing on the edge between old and new, comfort and growth, delay and progress. You don't need to be perfect to begin. You just need to begin right inside that resistance. Every time you act through boredom, you're carving a small crack in the shell of stagnation. And through those cracks, the light of discipline, inner strength, and renewal will begin to pour in. Don't wait for the mythical day when you'll wake up inspired and ready to do what's right. That day rarely comes, but you can create it by working even when you don't feel like it. That is true freedom, to act not because your feelings allow it, but because your principles demand it. So next time you feel tired, sluggish, and uninspired, that's not a sign to stop. It's a call, right now. Inside this quiet resistance is your chance to rebuild your strength silently, but proudly. 4. Focus is the weapon of the most dangerous individuals. Have you ever felt like the entire day slipped by and you didn't accomplish anything meaningful? Not because you were lazy, not because you lacked goals, but because every time you began something important, you were pulled away by something smaller. A message, a notification, a catchy headline on social media. And by the end of the day, you're not tired from effort. You're tired from being scattered too many times. People don't lose their lives through major decisions. They lose them bit by bit in seemingly harmless moments of distraction. And what makes it dangerous is this: you don't notice it happening. Because distraction always comes disguised as just a short break, getting more info, scrolling for a few minutes. But you're not just scrolling, you're being pulled. Not in the direction you've chosen, but in the direction others have programmed for you. The Stoic lives as if every minute matters. They don't let their mind wander aimlessly or allow their energy to leak into the trivial. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in Meditations, "Don't let yourself be pulled away by what surrounds you. Return to the task with steadiness of mind and do it with your whole being." That's not just a note on productivity. It's the declaration of someone who lives with sovereign intent. Focus isn't a trendy skill. It's the foundation of freedom. Because if you can't control your attention, everything else you try to build will collapse. No plan is strong enough to survive constant interruption. No dream is big enough if you can't stay on the path long enough. You can't write a book chapter, build a strong body, or heal your inner world if every 5 minutes you check your phone, and every 10 minutes you change direction. Anything valuable demands deep focus, and those who possess that ability in a world this distracted become extremely dangerous, in the best sense of the word. They don't waver easily. They don't waste energy on the trivial. They don't play by the crowd's rules. They move with clarity and precision. Focus doesn't make you boring. It makes you sharp, trustworthy, and hard to manipulate. When you enter that private space of deep attention, whether it's 30 minutes of reading, an hour of writing, or a focused workout, you're training a form of invisible power most people never touch, the power of full presence. If you truly want to change your life, start with this simple act. Every day, carve out a block of undisturbed time to do what you know matters. No split attention. No podcast in the background, no multitasking with social feeds, just you and the goal you've chosen. And once you build that skill, you won't need to tell anyone you've changed. They'll feel it in the calm of your eyes, in the clarity of your words, in the steadiness of your presence in a noisy world. Focus is not something you wait to feel. It's something you build day by day, moment by moment, and once you have it, you won't need many words. Your life will speak for itself. 5. Stop craving perfect acceptance. there is a form of imprisonment that most people never see. It doesn't come from metal bars, but from the gaze of others. An invisible prison built out of likes, compliments, and the fear of rejection. You live to meet their expectations, trying not to stray from the image they want to see, and somewhere along the way, you lose your true self without even noticing. No one said you must be liked by everyone, but you place that pressure on your own shoulders. You choose the paths that are easy to agree with. You hide the fierce, bold, and different parts of you because you're afraid they won't understand, they'll judge, or they'll walk away. And in trying to please others, you leave yourself behind. The Stoic does not live to be agreeable. They live aligned with their internal values, even if that makes them feel out of place in the crowd. Because they understand, if freedom must be bought with popularity, then it's no longer freedom. It's a refined form of dependence, sugar-coated in charm and polite smiles. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "We love ourselves more than others, but care more about their opinion than our own thoughts." That line reads like a gentle accusation, but it exposes the raw truth behind millions who live to be accepted, not to live what they believe. You cannot chase both honesty and likability. One must yield. And if you choose likability, you will sacrifice integrity. But if you choose truth, you must learn to live with being misunderstood, misjudged, and sometimes alone. That's not a punishment. That's a process of shedding what no longer fits the path you walk. Don't be afraid when they laugh at your changes. Don't be shaken when they don't understand your new boundaries. Don't doubt yourself when you begin detaching from things you once tolerated. They don't misunderstand you because you're wrong. They misunderstand you because you've grown, and that unsettles them. No one owes you support, and you don't need permission to live a life with direction. The Stoic understands, external validation does not define your worth. True value comes from whether you dare to live in alignment with what you know is right. So, next time you feel anxious about being judged, pause and ask yourself, am I living to be liked or to be respected, first by myself? Because the whole world could be clapping and you'll still feel hollow inside if you know you're pretending. Stop seeking agreement. Start building inner respect. A person who knows who they are and doesn't need others to confirm it is a person who cannot be shaken. 6. Silence is not weakness. It is control. We live in an age where everyone rushes to speak. Everyone wants to be heard, understood, validated. Social media turns opinions into declarations. Debate becomes instinct. And silence is often mistaken for weakness, avoidance, or a lack of opinion. But the Stoics believe the opposite. Silence, when chosen for the right reason and at the right time, is the highest form of self-mastery. It is not withdrawal. It is refusal to be pulled into unnecessary battles. You don't need to answer every question. You don't need to correct every criticism. You don't need to clarify every misunderstanding. And you certainly don't need to speak just to fill the silence that makes others uncomfortable. Because a calm mind doesn't need to assert itself. It only needs to remain still to observe and wait for the right moment to speak. Epictetus once taught, "Let silence be your general rule and say only what is necessary." In that short sentence lies an entire philosophy, a reminder that every time you speak, you reveal a part of your inner world, and not everyone deserves access to that space. The quiet don't speak less because they have nothing to say. They speak less because they understand that words are not always needed. They observe more, listen deeper, and think carefully before allowing their words to pass. Because one careless sentence can ruin a day, a relationship, or a rare opportunity. The Stoic chooses silence not out of fear, but to conserve energy for what matters. They don't react on impulse, they respond with intent. They know that quick reactions often come from an undisciplined ego, but silence at the right time is the mark of a person who knows what they need and doesn't need to prove it. Silence is also a strategic shield. It keeps your energy from leaking into petty arguments. It helps you see who listens and who merely waits to speak. It gives you space to shape your thoughts instead of being swept away by emotional reflex. And above all, silence is a statement. A quiet but firm way of saying, I am not controlled by emotion, by public noise, or by the need to be instantly understood. Because those who talk constantly to get attention are often the ones who haven't yet learned how to let their actions speak. But those who choose silence, their actions carry weight without words. So, next time you feel the urge to clap back, to argue pointlessly, to get pulled into gossip or drama, pause. And remember, silence does not make you small. It makes you mysterious, composed, and hard to read. It is not weakness. It is the art of knowing where your strength lies and knowing when to hold it for something that truly matters. 7. Don't fill failure with excuses. There is a quiet yet dangerous habit we often fall into. The moment we face failure, our first instinct isn't to look inward, but to search outward for reasons. Blame others, blame circumstances, blame bad timing, blame luck. And so instead of learning from the fall, we construct a shell of rationalizations to protect our ego from being bruised. But sadly, in protecting the ego, we also reject the opportunity to grow. The Stoic is not afraid of failure. They fear only illusion. They are willing to face their mistakes head-on. No denial, no sugarcoating, no justification. Because they understand, only when we admit we were wrong do we gain the power to make it right. But when we deny, deflect, or justify what ought to be faced with honesty, we let the past continue steering our future. Seneca once wrote, "No gem can be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trial." Failure is not shameful. What is shameful is pretending it never happened. Everyone has wandered off course. The issue isn't that you once strayed, it's whether you have the courage to turn around. Have you wasted time on things unworthy of you? Admit it. Have you delayed a goal just because you feared failure? Admit it. Have you acted poorly, betrayed your values, chosen comfort over what's right? Admit it. Because freedom isn't found in excuses, it's found in the courage to admit fault without hiding behind anyone or anything. A truly mature person doesn't use reasons to run from themselves. They stand still, take ownership, and move forward with firmer steps. Because only when you stop stuffing the gap with excuses do you finally have room to rebuild with honesty, with real effort, and with a promise not to betray yourself again. You don't need to punish yourself, but you also don't get to forgive yourself too easily until the lesson is truly learned. Inner freedom doesn't come from others letting you off the hook. It comes from the moment you stop lying to yourself. When you can look straight in the mirror and not flinch from your own gaze, that's when you know you're returning to your path. And if someone still brings up your past to shame you, let them. Because the Stoic doesn't hide their scars. They let them show as proof that they once fell but rose again without leaning on a single excuse. Failure doesn't kill you. Denial of failure kills your chance to start over properly. So if today you're ready to begin again, start with the bravest act of all. Own the mistake and fix it in silence. 8. Discomfort is the forge of strength. Every time you feel confused, exhausted, in pain, or uncertain, your first instinct is usually to retreat. You want to shut out the noise, escape the responsibility, choose something easier, quicker, less mentally taxing. But what you're running from isn't the situation, it's your own growth process. And paradoxically, those uncomfortable feelings are the clearest signs that you're exactly where you need to be. Steel is not forged in cold water, and neither is character built in comfort zones. The Stoic knows this deeply. They don't avoid hardship, nor do they try to make life more comfortable. Instead, they step into difficulty with the mindset of an apprentice, observing, enduring, adapting, and turning pain into power. Epictetus once taught, "Don't seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do." When you resist adversity, you exhaust yourself. But when you accept it as a necessary part of life's process, your state shifts from resistance to refinement. You may not like rejection, but every rejection is a tougher skin on your will. You may not enjoy loneliness, but those silences teach you how to stand without needing anyone to hold your hand. You may not want failure, but no meaningful lesson is taught on the mountaintop. They all wait at the bottom, where you must face the truth with no one left to blame. Don't confuse pain with being off course. Discomfort isn't a warning sign. It's an invitation to become tougher, wiser, more adaptable. It's a mirror reflecting the weaknesses you've avoided and a blueprint for the stronger version waiting to be built. No achievement comes from comfort. No steadiness is born of ease. Every person you admire, if you look deep enough, has sat with uncertainty, kept walking through fear, and held faith when no one else stood by them. They were not spared pain. They simply didn't flee from it. Think back to the last time you felt pressured, anxious, or lost. Instead of asking, "When will this end?" try asking, "What am I being trained in right now?" The right question opens a new path, not one that avoids pain, but one that goes through it with open eyes and a calm mind. If you truly want to live a life that cannot be shaken, learn to endure discomfort with grace. That's the foundation of lasting strength. That's the test no one else can take for you. And that's also the moment you no longer need to prove anything, because how you endure will speak louder than anything you say. Discomfort is the forge of strength, and you don't need to wait for life to get easier. You just need to step in with shaky legs but a steady heart. Because real resilience doesn't come after the storm, it's forged inside it. 9. Daily discipline is true freedom. Many believe freedom is the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want. Sleep when you feel like it. Eat whatever tastes good. Work only when inspired. Avoid hard things. But living that way isn't freedom. It's a prison without walls where you're locked in by your own short-term desires, and every easy choice pulls you further from the best version of yourself. The Stoic sees it differently. Freedom doesn't come from indulging your feelings, it comes from mastering them. And the only sustainable path to self-mastery is discipline. Discipline isn't harsh rigidity. It's a quiet commitment you repeat with yourself each day. When you choose to wake early despite the fatigue. When you sit down to work even while your mind resists. When you turn down the tempting comfort to stay loyal to a long-term goal, you are saying, "I am someone who can be trusted." And there is no power greater than the trust you earn from yourself. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." You can live in a free country, choose your career, your partner, your path. But if you can't control your habits, your emotions, or your behavior, then you're still being led by something else. Maybe it's procrastination, maybe fear, maybe the craving for instant ease. Whatever it is, it's not you. Discipline isn't just found in grand gestures. It lives in the smallest details. How you begin your morning, how you end your day, how you respond when things go wrong. And the beautiful part is, it can be trained. No talent required, no perfect timing needed. Only the willingness to start and repeat even when no one sees, no one praises, and no one forces you. The Stoic doesn't live by emotion, they live by principle. Not because they're forcing themselves, but because they understand. Motivation fades, but habit stays, and it is those quiet, consistent acts that shape who you are, not today, but for a lifetime. So if you're waiting for the right spark to begin, stop waiting. Because motivation may get you started, but only discipline will carry you to the end. Ask yourself, if I can't do what's right when I don't feel like it, what will I do when life truly tests me? And you'll see, discipline doesn't take your freedom, it unlocks it. Because only when you are strong enough to do what's right, even when no one's watching, do you truly run your own life. That is freedom, not the ability to do what you want, but the strength to not be ruled by the weakest parts of yourself. 10. Don't just think about a good life. Live it. Have you ever sat alone and thought, if only I lived with more discipline, more calm, more decisiveness? Have you ever imagined a better version of yourself, strong, aware, composed, unaffected by emotions, untouchable by manipulation? Of course you have. But imagining it and living it are two entirely different things. Thoughts do not change your life. Actions do. And sadly, most people remain trapped between two worlds. One, the clarity of intention in their minds, and the other, the worn-out habits of their daily lives. They say they want peace, yet dive into drama and gossip. They say they want focus, yet allow their phone to dictate where their attention goes. They say they love truth, yet remain silent in the face of wrong just to keep the peace. The Stoic does not worship philosophy in words. They honor it in the way they live. Marcus Aurelius didn't sit down to write deep lines in meditations just to soothe himself. He wrote to remind himself to act rightly on weary days, in times of war, betrayal, and death. Philosophy to him was not a theory to sound clever in conversation. It was a compass to live a life of self-respect. You don't need more reasons to live rightly. You just need to stop living wrongly. Each day you delay, you stretch the distance between who you are and who you could have been. Every action that strays from your values is a small fracture in your self-respect. And if those fractures go unnoticed and unrepaired, you'll stop believing in yourself no matter how strong your words may sound. Don't say you value calm if you can't sit still for 5 minutes without outside noise. Don't say you live by values if you fold easily just because someone dislikes your firmness. Don't claim to have principles if those principles vanish the moment they're challenged. Epictetus once said something that startles many. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. It's a reminder that's both gentle and brutal, because it doesn't let you hide in explanations anymore. It demands you step out, stand tall in real life, and let each daily action speak for itself. You may have read a lot. You may have reflected deeply, but if what you know doesn't show up in your daily choices, then it's just knowledge, not wisdom. And knowledge unacted upon only breeds inner conflict, confusion, and quiet self-contempt. So from now on, whenever you're about to repeat an old habit, say something false, or act against what you know is right, ask yourself, what would the strongest version of me do right now? And then, without waiting, do exactly that. Don't just think about a good life. Live like you already have it through every small choice, every single day. Because virtue does not come from the ideals you keep in your mind, but from the actions you repeat when no one is watching. I don't say these things from the position of someone who's perfect, but as someone who delayed living rightly for far too long. I used to believe I needed more time, more conditions, more approval to begin changing. But in the end, it was my silence with myself, the small compromises that pulled me further away from who I was meant to be. I've learned this. No one can offer you respect if you've never kept promises to yourself. And true freedom doesn't come after the world approves of you. It comes when you no longer need that approval. Each of the 10 principles you've just heard isn't theory. They're daily reminders. I still have to repeat to myself, especially in weak moments. Because life doesn't ask you what you believe. It watches how you live and reflects that truth back to you. If what I've shared made you look at yourself with greater honesty and courage, please like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss what comes next. Because in the end, a trained mind is something no one can take from you, and a person who masters themselves cannot be broken by anything. I'll see you in the next video.